What's happening, everybody? On today's show, the top 25 coaches poll is out. We'll run through the SEC teams who made the list. We'll also go around the conference as we have tidbits from camp at LSU, Alabama, Auburn, and more, and some SEC superlatives as we look ahead to the season, like who has the toughest schedule, who has the easiest start, and more. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. All right, let's jump into it as the coaches poll is out. The preseason USA Today sports college football coaches poll. I think we got all the words in there. And we're going to take a look at the teams that made the list. And as we start, we look at some of the schools in the SEC that come in on this list. And first and foremost, it starts with the Georgia Bulldogs. They come in number one on this list. And here's what USA Today says. It says the Bulldogs have gone 29-1 during their 2-year reign as national champs, avenging their lone loss in the process. They are therefore earned the benefit of more than a few doubts as they open at number one despite several departures. The offense still in great shape. They got Brock Bowers back, Ladd McConkey. They had two dynamic transfers in Dominic Lovett and Robert Thomas. And the heir apparent to Stetson Bennett is Carson Beck, who looked like a stud in the spring. Defense going to be really good again with Small Munden and Jamin Dumas-Johnson back. So Georgia, no surprise, the preseason number one. Michigan sneaks there too. They bring back their quarterback and a lot of pieces from that playoff team. But Alabama coming in right behind them at number three. Alabama last opened at preseason number 3 in 2020. And things worked out pretty well for that group. But this year's group, a lot of questions coming in. They lose Bryce Young at quarterback. Who's going to be the guy to follow him? Will it be Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, Tyler Buckner? We will find out very soon. But, of course, the defense led by some cornerstones like Kool-Aid McKinstry, Malachi Moore, Dallas Turner. We know they're going to be more aggressive up front and get after it. And Kevin Steele is going to do that. More ground and pound, I think, from Alabama as well. But pretty interesting. Alabama with the question marks there. They've got them preseason number 3. Ohio State sneaks in at number 4. They got to replace their quarterback and C.J. Stroud. But coming in at number 5, it's the LSU Tigers. Year one under Brian Kelly. Delivered the upset of Alabama, an SEC West title, and a Citrus Bowl victory. But can they take it a step further? Jaden Daniels is back at quarterback. Almost all their pieces on offense are back. And the defense gets back Mason Smith on that D-line, who got hurt in the third play of the game of the season last year. Missed the whole year with that knee injury, but he's back. Harold Perkins is back. They've just got they got a lot of things figured out there at LSU. What's fascinating when you look at the top 5 there is 3 of the top 5 schools on the preseason poll all replacing quarterbacks. Michigan and LSU bring back theirs, but Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State all will have new starters at quarterback. But again, those are blue bloods, if you will. They get the benefit of the doubt. Going through the rest of the top 25, Tennessee comes in preseason number 10. USA Today says the expectations around the program have changed since last year. Josh Heupel doing a really good job with the quarterback. They replace Hendon Hooker, and Joe Milton looks to be poised and ready to take over. Question marks do exist, and games against South Carolina and Alabama will be tough. But to take that next step, the Vols will need to land an immediate impact from 2 BYU transfers in linebacker Keenan Peely and cornerback Gabe Judy Lally, while continuing to rank among the best in the SEC at getting pressure into the backfield. So, number 10, Tennessee, they're in the preseason coaches poll. So that's Georgia at 1, Alabama 3, LSU 5, Tennessee 10. We got to go down before we get to the next SEC team. Ole Miss coming in at preseason number 22. USA Today says, are the Rebels more than the team that started 7-0 or the one that finished the one with one win in their last 6 games? The answer is going to determine if they're contenders in the SEC West or not. Quarterback battle still going with Jackson Dart, Spencer Sanders, and Walker Howard. Someone will need to emerge and take that pressure off their stud running back, Quinshon Judkins. Of course, defense brings in Pete Golding from Alabama, looking to get that unit up to par. Modest gains on both sides of the ball might be enough to put Ole Miss within the top of the division. And then coming in, sneaking in at the back end, number 25, it's the Texas A&M Aggies. And yes, they went 5-7 last year. And here's what USA Today says. Nobody's seat among high-profile coaches is hotter than Jimbo Fisher's. After the bottom fell out of the program last year. If things are to turn around, much of that responsibility will fall on the quarterback, Connor Wegman, and the new OC, Bobby Petrino. But the good news is they bring back a receiving combo of Anaya Smith, Evan Stewart, Moose Muhammad, and the defense looks stout with all those 4 and 5 stars that they've recruited. But will that be enough to win close games? The close games that led to their first losing season since 2009 last year, we will find out. Now, Matt Zenitz over at On3 Sports, he made up a list of who did we miss out on here? Who got left out of the preseason coaches poll? He's got 3 SEC schools in this mix. He's got South Carolina, Arkansas, and Kentucky. And when you look at the others receiving votes, South Carolina was the second most others receiving votes. So theoretically, I guess you could say they're 27th in here. Florida was actually in the others receiving votes. Then you find Kentucky, and then you find Arkansas. So Matt Zenitz seems to think, look, all those schools have a lot of talent. And obviously South Carolina bring back Spencer Rattler and Juice Wells. Arkansas bringing back Rocket Sanders and KJ Jefferson. And Kentucky dipping in the transfer portal, but going to get a really good quarterback in Devin Leary and a good running back in Ray Davis from Vanderbilt. So I'm kind of with them there. You know, A&M kind of getting the benefit of the doubt. We saw the SEC Media Days where folks were voting them to finish third in the SEC West behind LSU and Alabama. So A&M kind of getting the benefit of the doubt and sneaking in there at number 25. But really, I could make a case for any of those. If Arkansas was 25, I could see it. If South Carolina was 25, I could see it. If Kentucky was there, I could see it. You know, will any of the other schools play a factor here? Auburn, Mississippi State, Missouri. Find out as the season gets going along. But obviously, this is just the coaches poll, preseason coaches poll, and a lot can change between now and when the season gets going. But good to see that many SEC teams in there, and good to have 4 SEC teams ranked in the top 10. We will see if they can live up to the hype. But there you have it. That is the first top 25 coaches poll preseason-wise ahead of the start of the season. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we're going to run through some fall camp tidbits coming out from Monday. That is coming your way in just a sec. First, I want to remind you guys this episode is presented to you by our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. Look, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business, and you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you got to go check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helping you find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's very simple. You go to their website, you post your job for free, you add the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile. That's going to spread the word that you're hiring. And then they offer simple tools like screening questions, going to make it easy for you to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you want to interview and hire. It is why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helping you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Go post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Along here, Locked On SEC, and ran through the preseason coaches poll. We still got plenty to get into from notes going on around fall camp, but thank you guys for making sure first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers for checking us out. More fall camp tidbits throughout this week. Let's jump into it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Takes the handoff. What a catch! Around the conference.
And we start over at LSU as their practice on Monday was interrupted when a fight broke out in their 11-on-11 period, according to multiple reports. Folks who were in attendance tweeting out that the fight involved a number of players, including Harold Perkins, Major Burns, Malik Neighbors. Punches were thrown. Players were taken to the ground. Wilson Alexander, who covers LSU, reported that Malik Neighbors and Kyron Lacey were sent to the locker room for their involvement. Harold Perkins was involved, but did not see another snap on the field after that. Koki Riley from the Daily Advertiser said there were 3 different incidents that took place. Perkins and Lacey were the initial instigators, but also reported that former A&M DB Denver Harris, former Georgia safety Major Burns were involved. Brian Kelly said, "We have to be able to maintain our emotions while we stay aggressive. It's up to all of you guys to figure that out. It's not something that the staff can do for you. Respect your brother out here always." That's what Brian Kelly told the team after the scuffles. Look, some LSU fans might like this because they go, "Oh, our guy's got some dog in him." Others might look at it as, man, unstable. What's going on over there? Why are they fighting each other? It is what it is. It's early August. We'll see as camp rolls on. But look, I kind of like it. Any school in the SEC, if they're pushing and shoving each other and punches being thrown, obviously you don't want to hurt anybody, but it's good. A little feisty, a little action. Kind of like it. See what LSU looks like week 1 when they take on Florida State. Meanwhile, over at Alabama, their right guard Tyler Booker speaking with the media this week, and a guy who's appeared in 12 games as a freshman in 2022. Looks like he is ready for that run-first approach that people are expecting Tommy Rees to bring back to Alabama with that loaded backfield, all those starting running backs. Booker addressed that mindset. He said, look, we want to make people quit this year, and there's no better way to do that than to run the football. So we're going to run the ball this year. We're going to pass the ball as well because we have a lot of talented guys at receiver. We have a lot of guys who can throw the ball very well. But just having that run-first mentality and an offensive line that just gets us going because we want to make people quit. He went on to describe his attitude blocking as physically dominating. So we want to dominate you. We want to intimidate you. We want the third quarter to roll around, the defense to be like, oh, my gosh, we still can't stop the run. How are we going to stop the run? We want these guys to tap out, and we want guys to fear us. But that's a mindset that we have to develop now in camp. Being here at the University of Alabama, that's the mindset. Woo. If you're a Bama fan, you hear that, you're ready to run through a wall with Tyler Booker there, the right guard for Alabama. But, yeah, sounds like Alabama lost their identity a little bit last year, maybe a little bit too pass-happy with Bryce Young. And obviously the offensive line wasn't as dominant as ones in years past. But expect Bama to get back into that shoving match in the trenches with you, particularly with that offensive line and some big body backs that can run you over. Will be interesting to see what Bama looks like in a couple of weeks. So over at Auburn, Philip Montgomery, their OC, talking with the media, asked about the quarterback competition. And Robbie Ashford, Peyton Thorne, Holden Garner, all battling it out there. Philip Montgomery said all the quarterbacks have shown flashes so far, but there's more to playing quarterback than that. He said there's still a long way to go in this competition. When it comes to Peyton Thorne, he said, you want to talk about a guy that's professional when he goes about his work. He wants to be on top of every detail. He's involved in our offense. He said he's seeing things right now at a very good rate. As far as Robbie Ashford, he said, I honestly think Robbie has thrown the ball better in fall camp. I've seen him progress there. His biggest progression has been the throwing side. And then when it comes to Holden Garner, Montgomery said, I'll talk about his strengths. I think he's a natural thrower. I think he has the ability to do things with his feet. And mentally, he is on point. The Auburn Twitter account put out a video the other day of Garner throwing a bomb to a receiver and connecting through the air. So maybe a name we're not talking enough about. Maybe he is going to push that coaching staff to make a tougher decision. I think most of us just assumed Peyton Thorne was going to be the guy. Maybe Robbie Ashford still gets some plays, but still to be worked out there over at Auburn. And meanwhile, their defensive coordinator, Ron Roberts, he talked to the media and focused on true freshman Keldrick Falk, who has been grabbing a lot of headlines, told reporters Monday that Falk played the jack most of the spring, but it's pretty much the same in Auburn's 4-down alignment. That's part of the reason he was moved to the defensive end. He said he was doing it half of the daggone time, so he just moved him to end. He's in there right now fighting for that job. Jack at Auburn is the outside linebacker who rushes the quarterback. Robert said, I don't know how it's going to pan out, but he's going to be an impact player for us. So Keldrick Falk, certainly a guy to keep an eye on there at Auburn this year. Over at Florida, Billy Napier, still watching his team to see how they battle through the next couple weeks before they got to go out to Utah. Speaking with the media on Monday, he said that they're right in the middle of their process right now, that 3 practices this week could determine what they're going to do here with their quarterback competition. He says he's been pleased with the passing game, especially some of his wide receivers. Said it adds a dimension to our team. I think we've seen some players emerge, prove that we've been very pleased with making progress in that area as far as pass catchers. He said the receivers are extremely fast. That includes Aiden Mizell, Andy Jean, Eugene Wilson. He said receiver is still a very skilled spot. It's one thing to be fast. It's another to play fast. So there was a mental component here relative to the assignment, the technique, the adjustment to coverage, and all of that. Of course, we will see who will be Florida's starting quarterback as they, like we said, prepare to head out to play Utah here to kick off the season in just a couple of weeks. And, we expect it's going to be Graham Mertz, Jack Miller, Max Brown, and others in the competition. But Graham Mertz, the senior transfer from Wisconsin, expected to be Florida's starting quarterback here real soon. Over at Tennessee, Josh Heupel's crew looking to build that wall up front with that offensive line. O-line coach Glenn Ellerby, talking with the media this week, said that Miami transfer John Campbell, been playing at left tackle, and Texas transfer Andre Carrick, been playing at left guard. He said both of those guys look even better now than they did on film from last season. He said ego plays a part in it, but an offensive lineman has got to love the guy next to him more than you love yourself. He said Ellerby said the tackles, John Campbell, Gerald Mincey, Jeremiah Crawford, and Dane Davis, all competing well, not allowing their egos to get in the way. He also said Addison Nichols could play center and guard, similar to what Jerome Carvin did last year. Some guys just have to be able to play multiple positions. He also said that he hopes Javonte Spraggins has the biggest jump on tape this fall because he's been awesome all spring and summer. So we'll see on those guys. He did say that Mincey perhaps had his best day of camp on Monday, doing a good job working both left and right tackle. So Tennessee, they're going to be good this year. Protect Joe Milton. That O-line has got to be good. And just one more note, Paul Finebaum making his weekly appearance with Greg McElroy and Cole Kublik on their Jocks FM show in Alabama. He touched on Alabama and said, look, I've been feeling better about Alabama for months now. I just think the biggest issue right now is quarterback, but once that's settled, assuming it can be, I think a lot of the missing parts have been found through recruiting. I'm extremely excited to see what the 2 new coordinators are going to bring, because I've argued in the past that some of the coaching has really gotten Alabama's way. But I feel with the new coordinators, with Kevin Steele on defense, there's a high level of confidence that this team can make it to the playoff. And there you have it. That is the latest news going on around the conference. And when we coming up next, we're going to touch on an article from Adam Rittenberg at ESPN. A couple of college football superlatives. We'll touch on some of the SEC teams that made his headlines. That's coming your way in just a sec. Going along here, Locked On SEC, and enjoy reading Adam Rittenberg's work over at ESPN.com. He's been writing a lot of preview pieces for the upcoming season, and one of the things he put out there was a list of superlatives, just kind of running through, all right, who's got the toughest schedule, easiest road, rocky road, all that kind of stuff. So figured we would touch on some of those with you guys here on the show. If you weren't able to read the article, and encourage you guys to go check it out at ESPN.com. But first up, he was asked about who's got the toughest schedule. And he says it is no doubt, hands down, the Florida Gators. He said, how would you like to play the nation's toughest schedule as a second-year coach coming off a tough year one? Thus is Billy Napier of Florida. They opened the season on the road against 2-time defending Pac-12 champ Utah, and they close at home against their bitter rival Florida State, which is ranked very highly in a lot of the preseason polls. In between that, they got trips to Kentucky, South Carolina, and LSU. They face number 10 Tennessee at home 2 weeks after opening the season at Utah. And then, of course, there's an annual clash with the number one team in the nation, Georgia, in Jacksonville, 2 weeks before they visit LSU on November 11th. If you're counting, that is 6 preseason top 25 opponents, 4 in the top 15. Ole Miss isn't far behind Florida on the challenge level. The Rebels are the only SEC team playing both Alabama and Georgia on the road this year. But the Florida Gators, man, they've got a tough road. And Rittenberg says it's the toughest in the country. Now, who's got the cushiest open to the season? Rittenberg says that's Kentucky. So it's a toss-up between Kentucky and Michigan. The Wildcats win in a photo finish with their first 3 games coming at home against Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, and Akron, with a road game against Vanderbilt to follow that. 4 of Kentucky's 5 games in September are at home. The schedule does bite back to end the season. The Wildcats will play 3 of their last 4 on the road, and the only home game in that stretch is Alabama. The Michigan Wolverines, by the way, they play 4 in a row at home to start the season, but as we know, they will be without their head coach, Jim Harbaugh, so maybe that makes it a little bit tougher on them, but really easy slate for Kentucky. If Kentucky's not 4-0 to start the season, then something went horribly, horribly wrong for them. Who's got a rocky road? Rittenberg says it's the Arkansas Razorbacks. He said their road schedule is brutal. The Hogs, who played one of the toughest schedules in the country a year ago, play true road games against 3 preseason top 25 teams in LSU, Ole Miss, and Alabama. And they also have to travel to the Swamp to face Florida, which is never easy, even when Florida's down. Arkansas goes 4 straight weeks without playing a home game, starting with their September 23rd game at number 7 LSU and ending with the October 14th game at Alabama. At some point, Sam Pittman has to be wondering what he did to the people putting together these back-breaking schedules, making it very tough on him. All right. Some other games of note he brings up, must-see non-conference games. And he said there's a caveat here to be considered. These games must be played on a campus, so not neutral site. A few of the games he lists early in the season, Florida at Utah, of course, coming up in a couple of Thursdays. That's a big one. Texas at Alabama, week 2. We all know about that one on September 9th. But I'm going to sneaky one that he threw in here. And I keep saying this is not going to be an easy one for Ole Miss. Going at Tulane. Keep in mind, Tulane just won the AAC a year ago. They beat USC and the reigning Heisman Trophy winner Caleb Williams in the Cotton Bowl. That is going to be a tough test for Ole Miss going on the road to Tulane. Let's hope Ole Miss can bring a lot of fans with them on the road and hopefully not a drunk, hostile environment there in New Orleans. And then the last one he put on here that has the SEC tie, it's at the end of the season. Of course, Clemson at South Carolina. Clemson looking to get a little payback on South Carolina for what they did to him a year ago. But look, Spencer Rattler stays healthy. He torched Clemson last year. Let's see if he could do it again in this one. He turned the ball over a little bit in that game, sure, but that is going to be a fun one as far as the non-conference goes on campus. Now, talk about a clash of cultures. He brings up the early season game for Auburn when they play at Cal on September 9th. It's the first meeting ever between the teams at Auburn. They've been known to roll trees with toilet paper after big wins. At Cal, they've been known to strip naked and climb trees to save them. It is a 2,438-mile trip for Auburn and only Auburn's 3rd regular season game ever on the West Coast. Cal Bears are 9-1 at home in non-conference games under Justin Wilcox. So that will be a very fun one to see. A lot of people, picking Auburn to win that one very easily, but let's see what Auburn looks like after they name a starting quarterback and get their feet under them. And then one more for you in here. He says, this is Adam Rittenberg at ESPN. He says, there is no napping for the Vols. Which Power 5 team could get tripped up at home by a group of 5 team, a la App State winning at Texas A&M last season? He says one game to watch is that UTSA game at Tennessee on September 23rd. The Vols have an away game with Florida the week before and a home date the week after with South Carolina, which torched Tennessee 63-38 a year ago. And, of course, ruined the Vols' playoff chances. But UTSA brings back 15 starters, including their record-setting quarterback, Frank Harris, after going 11-3 and winning 2 straight Conference USA titles. That is a dangerous spot. I'm telling you guys right now that Tennessee, I know they feel good about their team and all that, but, man, Frank Harris is nothing to mess around with. I watched him go to multiple overtimes with Houston last year. It's a really good quarterback, and one guy's coming back for, well, I guess 7th year or something. That's gonna be one that Tennessee does not want to overlook. Not calling for the upset there, but as Adam Rittenberg says, nobody's really calling for App State to upset A&M last year, and look what happened. So, again, those are just some nuggets from Adam Rittenberg's article at ESPN.com. Some superlatives for the upcoming season. Just some few other notes before we get out of here. Billy Napier, like we said the Gators this week's practice are going to factor heavily into their starting quarterback battle. He did say at SEC Media Days he would like to have a decision made on the quarterback around their first scrimmage, which is coming up this Thursday. So we'll see if they can do that. Napier did provide an article on Shamar James, sophomore linebacker, suffered a leg injury. He said Shamar James, lower body injury, banged up a little bit, but hoping that he will be back in there soon. One other note on a former Tennessee linebacker, Juwan Mitchell. He transferred over to Arizona State. He's been dismissed from the team after just 1 week of camp due to Kenny Dillingham's focus on fostering the type of culture he wants, despite Mitchell previously starting at Tennessee and Texas. So Juwan Mitchell dismissed from the team there at Arizona State. So pretty interesting there. Oh, one more nugget I wanted to throw in. Brent Zwerneman, who covers the Texas A&M Aggies for, I believe, the Houston Chronicle down there, he tweeted this out. And look, for those of you who watched Bobby Petrino's comments on Sunday at A&M's Media Day, Bobby Petrino was very good. I mean, if you watched it, you bought into what he had to say. He deferred to Jimbo. So, look, Jimbo's the boss. I report to him. Brent Zwerneman tweeted this out. He said, look, don't believe I've ever upped a season prediction based on an interview, but, man, new A&M offense coordinator Bobby Petrino nailed every question today and was extremely insightful. Also seems to have complete grasp of what he's walked into. 9-3 from 8-4 following Petrino, Fisher, and the quarterback speaking today. So take that for what you will, but Brent Zwerneman covered college football a long time. He had A&M penned as an 8-14. He changed that to 9-3 just because of the answers he heard from Jimbo and Bobby Petrino and how they're going to work together. Look, they're saying all the right things. We're going to have to see it at play once the season gets going, but I kind of like it. Brent Zwerneman says 9 wins for the Aggies this year. We'll see if that happens. All right, thank you guys so much for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Keep coming back and checking in with us. We will have more previews around fall camp. We'll also have to bring you a couple of other interviews. Eric Kane will preview Tennessee with us. Also, Nick Roush will preview Kentucky with us, and much, much more. But this has been Locked On SEC. Thank you guys so much for making us your first listen every day. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow right here on Locked On SEC. I'm Chris Gordy. Talk to you guys then.